Hey everybody, it's Fiberglass Friday, or whatever we want to call it, Friday. So I'll just do another quick update. Like I said last week, I'll try and do a weekly one at the end of the week here. So you can see the tables are getting pretty full. Lots of glass on the go. Oh, there goes my tripod again. Dagnabbit. I just want to cover a couple things. I did a short video yesterday, if you've seen it or didn't see it, regarding the clay on this frog model here. So it's finished today. I finished it this morning. So Webb on the forum had a really good point, and the point was like I put, because there's a slight draft behind each of the eyes here. Get this guy out of the way. Because there's a slight draft, I had put some clay across there. So to keep it from getting stuck when I pull the face off with the glass. He mentioned, and it's true, if your rubber, isn't thick enough, you will get deformation when you pour. Like, you got to imagine this is going to be upside down, so this will be the very bottom. So that's where the most force is going to be put on. If you don't have thick enough rubber on a model of this size, you're going to get, well, even small ones do, you're going to get some deformation and you're going to get a bulging in there. So if you do, then the way to cure that is you just leave some clay on there. Just put some clay across those little spots and just leave it there, and that'll support it inside of the glass. But I think we mentioned it before, and Tuscany has mentioned it before too. So certain things can cause deformation. That's one. Even on the small, when you do the little singles, like let's see if I can find a few here. A few of these, even these little simple ones here with these little drop mold cases, right? If your rubber isn't thick enough and you do sort of a loose, you're just doing sort of a loose mother mold for it. If your rubber isn't thick enough, if it's way too thin, you're going to get deformation. You're going to get it ballooning out and distorting your final product. So just make sure that you always have your rubber thick enough to be able to get away with something like that, okay? The other thing I was mentioning after Webb's comment is once in a while, I don't have any to show you, but you can, sometimes you'll get in the glass on the inside, sometimes you'll get, when you're doing, you either miss a bubble to push out or it forms a bubble and you'll get a large indent in the fiberglass. And again, if it's a fair size model and it pushes against that void that you have there, it's going to cause deformation as well. So what you want to do is either you could fill that void with clay, or you could just make a really tiny little batch of resin, or the next time you're using some resin, just put a little bit in that area and let it harden up. Like, not too much, don't make it bulge, right? But nice and flat, and you'll cure that little problem there. But that was a really good point that Webb made, and I just thought maybe I'd add that to this little video here to for things for people to keep in mind. So doing multiples, again, as usual, here is sort of a little production line. I sort of got interrupted in the middle of this one this morning, and it should have been done, but I've just got one more section to go here. It's a 3-piece. So you get going on to 3-piece. This one here is going to be a 5-piece by the end of it. Sometimes you get these fiddly little ones. Sometimes, I'll get like, this one's I don't consider too small. You'll get smalls and you do 3-4 seams on it, and you kind of say to yourself, is this really worth all the work? It's up to you to figure out what the value is of that model, if it's worth spending that kind of time on. This one definitely is. It will be when it's finished. Got a little bunny on the go. He's going to be, I think, a 4-piece when he's done there. Fox is ready to go, probably come off the table today. And a bird pot. So just going to mention to you, like, the only advice I can give you here is for if you're doing multiples. If you're only doing one at a time, it's not bad. But if you're doing multiples like this, which is really efficient, I'll give you an old culinary term from my old chefing days, and it's called mise en place. Mise en place means sort of everything in its place, everything is ready. So when you're doing multiples like this, you could be like an hour, or maybe even 2 if I had a couple more larger models on there, of straight glassing time. So what you want to do is have everything ready. Everything you possibly could need, you have it all ready to go. So there's no running away from the table, no distractions. You can just keep going on your model. So I think I've covered this lots before, but just to show you, I've got lots of different sizes of glass, like squares. Whoops, there goes my tripod again. These large rectangles, some really large ones for bigger models like the Buddha and other ones. I have a big sheet over there. If I do huge ones, then I do big sheets. And then just some smaller squares. I cut these up for seams. These are great. I like beefing up my seams a little bit. So obviously this one would be, you'd be laying them in here just to the seam to beef up. It's sort of the last thing I do is I go around and I'll beef up some seams. Then I've got bigger ones here, longer ones, and that would be for something like that. You could put one on the other side too, just for beefing up the seams and the bottom flange. I've talked about it before. I like to have it done, prepared. So the other thing is I usually have all my cups. You see the cups over there? I'll have 4 or 5 of them pre-poured with resin in, sitting beside me. My gloves, my brushes, my stir sticks, my catalyst. Everything is here that I need. I don't really have, once I get going, I don't have to leave the table, which is perfect. I even have on occasion, depending on what I'm doing, I have locked my door because sometimes you get friends in and they don't understand that you can't stop. They think that you can just put your stuff down and walk away when you're halfway working on a model. And then they like to comment on things, how much it stinks in here, and you're like, well, because you're not wearing a respirator. But yeah, sometimes interruptions can drive you a little bit nuts. So depending on what I'm doing, I will sometimes lock the door so people can't come in and interrupt. I love having friends for coffee, but sometimes not. So that's the big thing I guess I can recommend to you. Just have everything ready to go. Have your glasses all ready, have your brushes are ready, your resins pre-poured in cups, you've got your catalyst out, brushes, whatever you might need to get through, have it ready to go, and then you can just fly at it. You can just keep going for like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. You can get her all done. So anyway, that was just a brief little tour and tips and hints, and we'll see you again next week. See you, gang.